Roman gladiators were not just fighters in an arena. They were part of a brutal system where sport, business, and propaganda fused into one machine. To the crowd, the games looked like entertainment, but behind the sand and blood stood contracts, investors, and political calculation. Gladiators were human capital, bought, trained, insured, rented, and sometimes discarded. Most gladiators were slaves, prisoners of war, or criminals, but some were free men who sold themselves into the arena. Those volunteers were called auctorati, and their choice shocks modern audiences. They accepted loss of status and bodily autonomy in exchange for money, fame, and a chance to escape poverty. Rome was a harsh society, and the arena offered something rare: visibility. The business began in schools called ludi, owned by men known as Lanistae were despised socially, but they could become very rich. They purchased gladiators like assets and invested heavily in their survival. Contrary to myth, most gladiators were not meant to die every fight. Training a gladiator was expensive, and a dead fighter meant lost profit. Gladiators were fed high-calorie diets designed to build fat as protection against cuts. They trained with wooden weapons before touching steel, drilling technique over chaos. Doctors treated them after fights because a wounded gladiator could fight again. Different gladiator types existed to create balance and spectacle. A Metamilo fought with heavy armor and a large shield. Aresiarius used a net and trident, relying on speed rather than armor. These matchups were designed like chess, not random violence. The arena was theater, and the fighters were actors with real consequences. Crowds came for blood, but they stayed for narrative. Each gladiator had a persona, a reputation, and sometimes a fan base. Graffiti preserved their names, victories, and even romantic admiration. Some gladiators became sex symbols, selling sweat scraped from their skin as cosmetics. Fame did not equal freedom, because ownership still defined their lives. The sponsor of the games, usually a politician, paid for everything. Games were a form of investment in popularity. By funding spectacles, elites bought public favor without addressing deeper problems. Bread and circuses were not distractions by accident. They were policy. The arena reminded the population who controlled life and death. When the editor of the games decided mercy or execution, it symbolized power. The crowd participated, but the final authority rested above them. This made violence feel communal while reinforcing hierarchy. Executions during games blurred entertainment and punishment. Criminals were killed publicly to warn others and entertain many. Mythological reenactments turned death into storytelling. Rome normalized cruelty by wrapping it in ritual. Gladiators lived under constant psychological pressure. Every fight risked injury, disgrace, or death. Victory brought temporary praise, not security. Defeat could mean survival or execution depending on mood and politics. Some gladiators earned freedom through years of success. They received the wooden sword, the rudis, symbolizing release. Yet many freed gladiators stayed in the business as trainers or bodyguards. The arena shaped their identity too deeply to escape. Rebellions like Spartacus terrified Rome because they exposed the system's vulnerability. Gladiators were trained killers who understood Roman tactics. Spartacus proved that the business of the arena could turn into war. After his revolt, Rome tightened control, but never abandoned the games. The empire needed them too much. Games unified diverse populations through shared spectacle. They reinforced Roman values of dominance, endurance, and submission. Even emperors used the arena to shape their image. Some appeared as generous sponsors. Others fought as gladiators themselves to claim strength. This blurred lines between ruler and performer. Over time, moral discomfort grew among some philosophers. They argued that the games degraded both fighter and spectator. Christian writers later condemned them as symbols of pagan cruelty. But economics outlasted ethics. As long as crowds came and power benefited, the arena survived. Only when the empire changed did the business collapse. Rising costs, shifting values, and political instability weakened the system. The end of gladiatorial games was slow, not dramatic. They faded as Rome itself transformed. Today, gladiators are remembered as heroes or victims. In reality, they were workers inside a violent industry. They fought not for glory alone, but because survival demanded it. The arena was not madness. It was organization. And that is the darkest truth. And if you want more stories like this, like the video and subscribe to History Refuge.